You're listening to Fund Shack.
I'm here at SuperReturn in Berlin with Alex Simmons, head of EMEA for Edelman Smithfield, the specialist communications firm. Alex, tell me a little bit about Edelman Smithfield.
Hi, Ross. So Edelman Smithfield is the financial services and financial communications business of Edelman. We're about 250 people around the world, very specialized in asset management and transactions work.
And you've recently done some LP research around communications. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so look, we've been tracking the way that LPs think about reputation and communications for a number of years now. And this year, we've again surveyed 400 LPs around the world, out from the US, the UK, the Middle East, and Europe and APAC. And what's been really interesting is to see the sort of continuing evolution of expectation around communication. When I first started working in this space and working with GPs, the level of comms expectation indirectly to LPs was relatively limited. Make sure you get your deals out, make sure that the issues are managed, but not too much else. And what we see today is that LPs have a really high expectation of broad-based communications and narrative storytelling from the people they're going to put their money to work with. So one of the things that's come out is that more than 40% of LPs think that the reputation and positioning of leadership is as important as returns.
As important as returns.
So, what we're seeing is it's not just can you deliver my money as the sort of determining factor. They are looking, yes, of course, at performance in the past, but they're looking at the reputation of the people that are sitting in front of them, telling them about performance for the future, which makes perfect sense.
So when they're doing their fund due diligence, to what degree are they taking into account content that a firm may have put out there?
So what we see is that actually LPs are getting their information from lots of sources, which I think is really useful from a GP's perspective. The opportunity to talk to them is pretty broad. So yes, they're going to get it from major business publications. 30-odd% say that is a key source. But what we're also seeing is things like podcasts coming up the ranks. So 17% say that they pay attention to podcasts when they're making their investment decisions. I think that speaks to the opportunity to have that longer form, more nuanced engagement. 40 minutes with you gets an awful lot of information out into the world, into the LP's minds about the way that an organization thinks and operates. And then we also have seen that social media has been pretty strong for a number of years. This year, 52% say they always consult social media of a GP when they're doing their due diligence. I think that's pretty robust, and 99% say they at least occasionally do. And then I think you connect the dots from that to what are they looking for, and what we see is they're looking for leaders. The leadership is especially important at this point. What does the CEO think? What do they do? How are they operating in the world? And how am I seeing that? Increasingly in multiple ways. So it's not just the formal engagements. Actually, what they want to see is the sort of informal side of it, so that they can get a better feel for an organization and have, I think, more regular touch points through that informality.
So there really is a huge reputational onus on the CEOs of private equity firms to put themselves out there in the correct manner.
Yeah, and look, we're seeing obviously some of the mega firms are already doing that incredibly well. I think what this speaks to is a need for other firms to step up and think about how they're going to, importantly, authentically do that. This isn't about everybody going running with an iPhone and talking about what they're doing on their travels. You've got to find your way as a leader and as in keeping with your organization to communicate about what's going on in the world.
And just to go back to the channels, we're obviously here at SuperReturn. Conference is still very important, human engagement.
Yeah, look, I've been 5,000 plus people here this year. They've extended it, as you know, to a whole week. I think that speaks to the ambition of not only the conference organizers, but frankly, the desire for LPs to hear from GPs. And what we see on stage is probably quite a good exemplar of that research coming through, which is opportunities for leaders to showcase the way that they think about the world, again, in relatively long form places.
Did you look at ESG in your survey?
We did. So obviously, a lot of change in that world at the moment, and lots of questions around how people should or can be communicating. What we see is, I think, in line with what we've noted elsewhere in other surveys, which is really increasingly ESG DEI. It needs to be embedded. It needs to be connected to the business outcomes, and increasingly LPs tell us that they want to see that content. They still want to see it, but they want to see it as part of the rest of the information, not necessarily the standalone report. They want to see you living it and breathing it.
Great, Alex. Well, thanks so much for sparing your time for Fun Shack.
Thanks so much for having me.